31 on October 22nd. Welcome to the North Clackamas School Board meeting, the work session. I'm super excited to have our time with our high school success student support engagement specialist. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Petra. Are you ready to rock and roll for us?
I sure am. Thank you. Though
Excellent.
I almost said good morning and then had to catch myself.
I would have
And
said
I
good morning back just to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Let's just go in.
and I have to tell on myself a little bit because I've been in a Google Meets kind of world, and so I've become quite adept at presenting on Google Meets. And today I was like, I have to present my screen on Zoom. I don't know how to do that. So I made Carla in secondary programs like practice with me. So hopefully it will go without a hit. But
I'm sure it'll be
I'm,
just
I'm
fine.
I'm really pleased to introduce two amazing colleagues, Luke Scarpino, Robert Blake, and you heard from them last year when they were introducing the work of the engagement specialists, and they are back with us tonight and are ready to update you on the work and knowing that things look a little bit different in this new or different world of ours, but the importance of the work and the relationships remains the same. So I will work on sharing my screen while I turn it over to these two gentlemen.
Well, thanks everybody for being here and allowing us to share a bit of where we are as a team through these difficult times. Know that as it's been a challenge for our students and families, we have taken the torch and just said, you know what, at the end of the day, it is our role to remove barriers and to make sure that they're getting their needs met in whatever way that looks. That has become paramount for us, in which it has been. We want nothing but success, not only for our students, our families, our community, but for the North Clackamas School District. So that's the mindset that this team shares, and we just keep moving the work forward.
Yeah, really grateful to be here. Thank you. Honored again to be able to follow up with you after our first presentation last year. As Robert said, a lot has changed, and I think that we can all agree that engagement right now looks a lot different than it did the last time that we met. But nonetheless, our focus remains the same, and we are excited to be able to share that work with you and answer any questions you may have regarding it. I know that I speak for Robert when both of us feel honored to do this work. It is not always easy. It is a challenge, but it is one that we feel humbled and grateful to be able to burden because of our unique position in the district. I believe that our work in some ways it buoyed me personally through the difficult time, right? I have students in the district, Robert has his family at home, and being able to rely on our team, being able to rely on the framework that we put in place and serve our students and families was rejuvenating in a time when it felt like no good news was coming. So I'm glad that we are here today to be able to celebrate that work and bring some good news to y'all. So as soon as Pedro gets our slideshow up and running, we'll get started.
Oh, y'all can't see it?
No.
Oh. And I practiced. Share.
There we go.
There.
Now you can see it?
Right.
That's coming up.
Oh my gosh. See, I just about had a heart attack for a second. I thought my boss
let's
was
not
gonna
get too
mad.
excited because we see your desktop. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Excellent.
Okay.
So now I don't have to be in trouble with my boss. Okay.
All right. If we want to start back one slide, I think Petra and Robert, you could take us away from there, buddy.
Yeah. So what we wanted to highlight is these wonderful individuals that we team up with every single day in the trenches doing this work. The diverse background and skill sets that are on this team is what really allows us to be able to touch many pockets of the community to ensure that we mitigate kids falling through the cracks. So they are my family. We rely on each other every day. And this is part of my why. Why I can, on those days when I don't feel like stepping outside of my house because of the fears that I have, my own personal fears about everything else that's going on. I know that when I get to where I'm going, these individuals have my back. So I am very grateful for these folks, and we will talk a little bit more in depth about their roles as we get more into the presentation. So our mission still remains the same, removing those barriers to students and families that have difficulty engaging in education. Once distance learning hit, we had to figure out what was going to be the priority. We ended up partnering with our tech department and making sure that Chromebooks were delivered to all the families that needed the technology. We wanted to make sure that no student went without. So we were partnering with tech, we were partnering with transportation, we were delivering, we were wrapping, whatever it took. We didn't care what the mission was. We just knew that those Chromebooks had to get into the hands of students to ensure that they had an opportunity to engage in education. So that became a priority of ours. Since then, we've moved into doing some food box deliveries. And that obviously gives us an opportunity to check in with students and families just to find out, are there additional needs and to find out if they are engaging in education.
I will say, I want to just give quick, if we could go back one, Petra, just explanation on the picks. This was Melron Pichon partnered up with a community resource to bring a Black History museum to all of our middle schools during Black History Month in February, right before the COVID shutdown. In the middle here, we have a partnership with Milwaukee High School's Latino Male Empowerment Group, where we were able to provide transportation to Linfield College, where they were able to participate in the Mentes conference. And then over on the right, like Robert said, that was when the Chromebooks hit, and we were out all over the district, everybody on the team, all hands on deck, partnering up with tech to make sure that we could get those kids those resources. So like Robert said, right now, this is an overview of the focus of our work. The only term of engagement that we had with students in the spring really was our technology. So again, that took priority, making sure that we tried to get those equitably distributed as quickly as possible and make sure that they were working and up and running for our families. We maintained our culturally responsive connections within our communities by reaching out via phone. Right when COVID hit, we were pulled into the district office. We're on a task force to start making calls to families to see if they were holding their kids home from school due to COVID before we had the statewide shutdown, and getting qualitative data in order so that our schools and our leadership could make decisions about how to best move forward. The retention and in program transitions has always been a focus of the team's work. When students are at a place where they're looking into educational options outside of North Clackamas School District, we partner up with school staff, the family, to ensure that they are aware of all of the wonderful offerings we have inside of North Clackamas, as well as what the steps will look like if they choose to go in a different option. And we're there with them every step of the way. Once they're our student forever. And then there at the bottom, we have the student support and engagement in the CDL model. And that's really where it's going to take on the bulk of our work moving forward, I think, is the idea of how are we going to find access points both online and hopefully at some point in person to be able to bring our students back in and engage them in school in a meaningful way so that they don't fall behind, they don't get off track. At the root of all of it, though, is relationships. I mean, Robert and I talked up front about the strength of the relationships within our team. That is the basis of the work that we do. We are there to listen empathetically to the stories of our students and families. And we are there to partner alongside of schools and staff that have strong relationships with families to leverage the best outcomes that we can for our community. We know that we cannot do it all. We do it as a team, but we do it with relationships at the forefront of the work. I believe servant leadership is rooted in relationships and rooted in knowing where you should step in and where you need to walk alongside someone, and eventually where you need to step back and let their light shine. So we'd like to start a little bit with the slide we left you with last time. Last time we said what our work is going to be moving forward. We talked about continuing to build and systematize the work. We wanted to increase 8th grade exposure to college and career readiness and career technical programs. We talked about our engagement with the 9th grade on track program through Stand for Children, and our mentor program exploration. How can we get students connected with adults that can stick with them alongside them for long periods of time? We talked about restorative justice, research, planning, and implementation, and using data to inform our work across the district. Those were the things that we said to you. We really want to do this moving forward. And so we'd like to just report back on where we landed with all of those points, given where we are currently with the situation we're all in. Robert, I'll let you start us off, buddy.
Absolutely. So one of the pieces that we talked about was systematizing the work. We have been working tirelessly to ensure that there's a Black Student Union represented at all of our secondary programs, to include our Clackamas Middle College and Clackamas Web Academy. Those students have signed up through our BSUs at our comprehensive high schools. We've been having weekly team meetings to just really talk about where the needs are and what do we need to do as a team to be able to pull all of those resources together. Working with the technology help desk and partnering with them to ensure that those Chromebooks that go down through the week that have technical difficulties or whatever, we're able to help the technology department have capacity to meet those needs.
Yeah, I would say too, we partnered with the people who are answering phones and technology right now with families, because we know that when families are calling in to get support with their technology, some of the things they might discover go beyond technology needs. And so we were strategic in making sure that each one of our team members is available for those people answering technology requests in case something else pops up. We talked about 8th grade college and career exposure. Due to a partnership with our college and career TOSAs, we have Naviance coming to middle schools, which will help provide a through line for career exploration, and really just exploration in general. What are you interested in? What do you like? What are your strengths? What are your skills now? And what do you want to build on? And then to be able to see that change over time since middle school as they enter high school. We did a lot of targeted high school field trips to colleges. And we partnered to make sure that we were finding students and families that might not have had access to that, and then walking hand in hand with them through the entire process. And then we did targeted trips to the Sabin-Schellenberg Skills Center for exploration. The 8th graders and some of their families that we've worked with throughout the years are really excited to hear about what is offered at Sabin. And I still believe it's a huge opportunity for us moving forward to expose a lot of our middle school families and students to what kind of fantastic things are happening at Sabin. For number 3, we said 9th grade on track support. I'm sure that the board has heard of the success at Milwaukee High School regarding their increase in the percentage of freshmen that are on track to graduate due to their strong partnership with the On Track program and Stand for Children. We're still continuing that work. It's going to look different. We are going to have to flex, adapt, and respond. But we have engagement team members paired up with high school success teams. And what's beautiful about partnerships like this is sometimes our engagement specialists will know an 8th grader, and they'll come into a 9th grade on track team, and we have a through line of exactly what we know of that family, what we know of that student. We can streamline education, or we can streamline communication and talk about that family's educational experience so far to ensure that we can best serve them. And then, Robert, you're up for 4, buddy.
Yep. So mentor program exploration. We're this year starting a pilot project at Clackamas High School with our leadership classes. Even with the focus of making sure that we have Black student unions in all of our secondary programs, all voices are still just as important. So with the leadership teacher at Clackamas High School, we've partnered with her. So once a month, all of the presidents and vice presidents from the respective clubs within the building will meet to talk about issues that arise in the building and how can we help address them. The other piece is that we're also exploring how can we do more targeted groups in this environment. So whether that looks like doing some boys and or girls groups virtually, that is yet to happen, but definitely something that we are looking to put together.
Absolutely. And then the development and implementation of a district-wide restorative justice plan. Prior to COVID, we were up and running. We were partnered with Resolutions Northwest. We had probably completed 2 to 3 trainings with staff across the secondary level. We reached out and tried to include some middle school pieces as well so that we had common messaging there. And we're excited to pick this work back up moving forward this year. I know that we're reaching out already and starting to come up with creative ways that we can still do this work because it's now, it's needed more than ever.
Yeah, and the last piece, the calls to the families as COVID-19 hit, we have really made a conscious effort to make sure that we're reaching out to our counselors, to our data folks, Doug Jenkins, teachers, our care teams, to identify those students who have not engaged or are engaging minimally, to find out what those barriers are and do what we can to make sure that they reconnect to school.
So we continue to serve our community. At the end of the day, we really, again, given the circumstances, we found ways to still step up and be visible for our students, whether that was at our peaceful marches and sit-ins, or whether that was through the phone calls and the regular contact to our students and families. Here we have pictures of the Happy Valley March. We have pictures of the Milwaukee sit-in. Over here we have Johanna Velasquez, who runs our API club at Milwaukee High School before COVID hit, out in the community with her group of kids. And then on the bottom right, we have Henry Williams, who put together a youth basketball team in New Urban High School for some of our students who couldn't access their comprehensive high school basketball teams as a way to stay active, stay engaged, and find another contact into school. I think that, Robert, I'll let you speak to the picture in the middle there, but I think overall in general, being visible has been fundamental and crucial during this time. Staying connected and staying engaged became difficult, but if you leaned into that difficulty and you found a way to hear a voice and hear a story, then you were most likely to see that student show back up to class and give it a go in the spring. And then of course, way more likely to have them log in and give it a go right now in the fall.
Yeah. So the picture in the middle is the BSUs from all of the comprehensive high schools. When I started in the North Clackamas School District, now this going on my fourth year, the Clackamas High School BSU, there were only 2 students, myself and another advisor. Those students at that time felt like they didn't have a place, they didn't have a voice, and they felt as if they didn't belong in this district. As you can see, fast forward to what we had just before COVID hit, we have students who now feel like the Clackamas School District is where they belong, and they do have a place and they do have a voice. And prior to COVID hitting, we had a historically Black college event to really showcase what it means for our kids to seek out that opportunity. So now we're receiving more requests from the students to see more of that information embedded in their respective buildings, and that the language and the college and career readiness programs, that it's also showcased there. They're excited. They're excited to know that there's a place that they can go after high school, that there's people there that reflect them. And so they have really just pushed and really want to see this happen. And we as a team have been working feverishly to figure out how to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, moving forward, more pictures since we met last regarding the work that we did. Here on the left upper, you see the fence where we had a graduation celebration for the New Urban graduates of 2020, finding ways to support people that were celebrating the opportunities that students did take advantage of and complete. It was difficult to celebrate stuff. I know I speak for myself, but it became difficult. And so finding any of that hope and light, our team jumped on it and made sure that we shouted it out. In the lower left corner, you got a picture of one of our care teams at a high school. We've continued to partner with all of our care teams across the secondary level to ensure that we're sharing best practices, to ensure that we are speaking about kids in ways that are positive and finding ways to uplift and support them, while also finding new interventions that can prove to be successful across multiple school silos. In the middle, we have a beautiful picture of the Clackamas BSU that Robert just referenced. I'm going to finish with the student photo because it's one of my favorite stories of the last year. On the bottom, we have Johanna in her office at the beautiful new Milwaukee High School, and trying to make that whole process happen during a pandemic, getting moved out, getting moved in, getting Chromebooks out across the students. It was wild, but Johanna rose to the occasion and firmly embedded herself with our Latinx community in the Milwaukee area, making phone calls for students that were finding themselves affected by fires, disengaged, just a huge resource for that school community and district-wide. I'll note that, again, I want to call out Johanna for her willingness to step up due to her insanely beautiful Spanish skills. We, at the formulation of the virtual online program, came together with Joe Bridgman and called every single one of the families that won that lottery spot. And what we found was not only were we calling families to congratulate them due to the fact that it was something they were excited and happy about, we also found ourselves walking them through a lot of nervous tension conversations. A lot of what's going on, when are we going back, how are we going back, if we do this, what does it mean, if we stay here, what does it mean? And so as a team, being able to have that voice and sometimes that relationship and take 15 to 20 minutes if necessary to put that family at ease so they knew that we were going to take care of them no matter what was huge. But again, I do want to name and call out Johanna on our team for bringing that language that she has and bringing it to our community. And then on the bottom right, we have an empty Clackamas High School, which is a strange sight. That's the commons there. But what you don't see is that they're full of bags for student belonging pickups. Again, as a team, we tried to partner at every single point of contact with a student and family we could to let them know that we cared. And in this case, what we did is we used a generous TriMet grant that's being run by the engagement team currently to give every single student the opportunity to apply for a hot pass if it was necessary for them to meet vital family needs, if they were working and going to school. And due to that messaging across all of our schools, not just Clackamas, we are going to be able to fulfill all of the funding of that grant this year. I'm happy to report that it's equitably distributed across the district and age ranges. And one of the beneficiaries of that grant is the student that you see here front and center. Sam, I worked with Sam for over 3 years at Rex Putnam High School. Brilliant student, unbelievable academic capabilities, and hit some unforeseen life circumstances that were really tragic. And to be able to always have an adult in that building that she knew she could come to, whether it was me or Robert, because she was engaged in the BSU and really well connected with Robert as well, that there wasn't a pressure around, we need you to show up and live up to those academic chops you got, because her teachers were doing that. They were lifting her up. They were letting her know, hey, you got the skills, you can do this. You got the skills, you can do this. She needed somebody to be able to walk through all of the other intangible things. And, you know, there were multiple points in time where she thought about dropping out, where we didn't see her, where she was 10-day dropped. We had to go knock on her door pre-COVID and say, hey, what's up? What's going on? How you doing? Is everything okay? Got her back in, got her engaged, was able, you know, and then she's thinking, I'm going GED. No, we had Twilight up and running at that time. We were able to connect her with Twilight. She got a high paying job. She got a housing situation that was really stable up in North Portland, got a job, and graduated from Rex Putnam High School, and reached out to me a couple weeks later for a letter of recommendation for Portland Community College. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
So our team, just want to tell you a little bit about them. Danielle Brown, who is, she is at Clackamas High School. Danielle has relationships in the community with some of our government agencies. One in particular that I can think of is our youth prevention team. She attends those meetings weekly. brings that information back to the team to let us know, what those efforts are at the government level. Henry Williams. Henry is at Rex Putnam. Henry, Henry, I've taken as a little brother. Just his, jovial, just demeanor, and just the care in his heart. Folks, it's just easy to gravitate to him. Henry is responsible for the engagement work at Rex Putnam. He also does, as Luke alluded to earlier, he also does the basketball team at New Urban High School, providing opportunities for those students as well.
Yeah, his history was as a campus monitor there. So again, we're leveraging relationships. We know we still had relationships with those kids. Yep. Let's keep them. Let's keep them. Even though your assignment changes, keep those relationships. Melvin Pichon, father of students within our district, strong advocate for our students, and formulated a BSU out of Happy Valley 4 years ago due to an extreme tragedy in the community. He stepped in to fill a void, step up for those students and families to give them voice, and has walked alongside him since. He's a big personality and a big voice, and he will make you smile and bring you in and make you feel safe and loved and warm. Again, I'm sure that if you were present this summer at any of our marches or sit-ins, you saw Melvin front and center walking around making sure everybody was safe with a smile on their face. And I've talked about Johanna. Johanna comes to us originally from Puerto Rico, but then moved to Louisiana, has a son with special needs, and found herself advocating for him within the school system when a teacher reached out to her and then said, "Hey, have you ever thought of substituting?" While in Louisiana, Johanna substituted at all levels of the school, and then came to us, and we were fortunate enough to have her join the engagement team 2 years ago. Fiery personality. I will never double cross her. She keeps me on my toes, and just a fierce advocate for her son and all of our students at Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So I think that, I want to be clear about our work moving forward again. I believe in accountability. I believe that when you step up to try and fill a need in a community, that you are accountable for seeing it through. I think that that's present in the leadership of North Clackamas School District. And I believe that as an engagement team, it's on us to continue to move that message forward. We're going to continue with the program transitions. I'll be honest. I carry a lot of that work, and this summer I've had more phone calls with students and families than I ever have before. And I feel fortunate to have had relationships with programs both across our district and outside of our district, so that I can be really upfront and honest with families about what they're walking into. As an example, students that are on track to graduate credit-wise, academic ability-wise, they have relationships. They want to go get a GED because they think it might be in person. It's not. And sometimes you gotta stop and have a whole conversation around what it looks like. And so being able to have relationships with those institutions so that I can give accurate, truthful, updated information so they can make a good decision is vital right now. The adaptive support for students, again, what a student needs right now may look a lot different than what it looked like in the spring prior to COVID. Also, our ability and tools to be able to respond to that look very different. But that doesn't mean that we can't be creative. If a student has a tech need and we know there's a younger sibling in the house that a teacher hasn't heard, when we knock on that door, we're going to ask by name, how is that student doing? Everything okay? Are you guys all right? And we're going to continue to flex and adapt our supports as much as possible while being safe. One thing is we've kept that at the forefront of everything we do. Look, I'm a hugger and I've struggled mightily with this, but I know that the less hugs I give now, the more I can give later. And so we're going to adapt and flex, but we're always going to put the safety of our students and communities first, even if it means no hugging.
Okay. So other pieces that we will continue to prioritize is the restorative justice work. We believe that that pocket of work is where we help to build relationships within the community. We're going to continue our tech partnerships. We're going to still have issues with Chromebooks, and we need to make sure that our students are getting those devices in a timely manner. We're going to continue our affinity work. I think that right now it is actually paramount that we meet the needs of that population of students in a very timely manner. We will also continue to explore getting all the resources together for the Black History, other Black college tours, hopefully next year.
Yeah, I think that some of the exciting things that have just popped up here in the last week or two, because things are changing so quickly, are planning with our community connection classes at the high school level. How can we get creative with those to get some faces on the screen about where students were connecting? We know we have staff in building that are not teachers that students were deeply connected with. I call out another name, Richard Chu at Putnam High School campus monitor. Huge relationships with kids in that community. How can we partner creatively so that students can still access him, check in, he can say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? So we're excited about the opportunities that lay ahead in this format. As big as the ask is, that's one exciting thing that popped up. I think that I can speak for Robert and I both when I say we approach this work with an attitude of gratitude. We always know that we do nothing alone, and it is vitally important now more than ever that we shower the people that we love that support us with that same love and support. We look out for each other, and again, these are the people who make this work possible, I wouldn't be here without them, right? On my best days, I'm a reflection of the beautiful people around me, and on my worst days, I get all up in my head. So these are some of the beautiful people around me that I hope that my work reflects.
And I just wanted to add that, my gratitude for the board as well. It's through your leadership and your vision that we're able to identify the needs. And without that, we don't get the job done. So want to say thank you for that as well.
Wow, thank you guys. That's an awesome presentation. It almost feels like old board meetings where we have regular conversations about what's going on out there. So really appreciate your time. Board, I'll do a roll call for you guys to ask your questions. Let's start off with Director Perez.
I had a feeling I was going to be first, board chair. Yeah, so actually, before I start, I just want to say a friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, just reached out to me, sent me an email and said, hey, you're going to get this guy, Luke Scarpino.
Oh, no.
He's going to come talk to you guys. He's good people, though. He's very good people, he said. He said he's a pro. That's what he said. Kevin Keskes, good friend of mine, professor at Portland State University. So Robert and Luke, thank you. It was, I can't even describe it in words, what you guys are doing for all the students out there, especially just how much you pour into relationships. I lost count of how many times you said relationships, connecting, connection, partner, team. So I'm going to steal a line from our superintendent from his convocation where he said, it's not what you say, it's not what you do, but it's how much you let them know how much you care. Mm-hmm. I think I botched that line, but you know what I'm saying. And that's what you guys are doing. And that's what everyone needs, but especially our kids. So thank you guys and keep up the great work. Love to meet up with you guys one of these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Thank you. And I'll tell you that Kevin reached out to me and said that you were all right too. He said,
yeah, well, yeah, thanks.
All right, Director Benaloga.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I also just want to say I haven't met all of you, but I've had the pleasure to work with Luke at Milwaukee High School and meet Melrun at Clackamas High School. And I know just from seeing the rest of you and hearing about your work, I know how much care and time and just true compassion you're using with our families. And we really cannot thank you enough for being that bridge for those families and those kids that are having economic and financial barriers, cultural barriers, to especially to the online issues, and just getting online and coming to school without those connections, those in-person connections. We really appreciate all that you're doing. I just want to voice my appreciation as well, just for what you're doing and for reaching out. I think that I think the services and the type of engagement and the type of relationship building that you're having with our kids is going to be the game changer for how they come out of this, right? I think it's going to be what they need to come out learning and having some knowledge, and hopefully just really seeing the people that they have in their corner. So thank you so much for all that you do. Truly appreciate it.
We are honored.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director McVeigh is still not here, right? Okay. Director Way.
Thank you. My gosh, thank you so much for this heartwarming, passionate presentation. I think this particular topic really hits home for me because I started my professional career right after college, being a student engagement specialist for some of the school districts in Multnomah County, and worked with immigrant and refugee youth in particular. And, you know, these were some of these kids were holding pencils for the first time, right? And they were 13 or 14 coming from war situations. And I remember, Luke, when you were saying about that recommendation, that I had a lot of those students come back to me and say, I'm at PCC now, or where I got married and I have children now, which makes me feel really old. But those are the relationships and those are the connections that that I know gets built through creative education models like this. And, you know, if someone were to ask like, oh, were you a teacher? Were you a counselor? I would say no. I mean, I was a little bit of everything, right? So I totally just appreciate your skill set and your talents. And again, just really highlighting and amplifying the youth voices too in your presentation was super great to hear. I just have a few questions. Just on some of the demographics that you're serving, and then maybe, you know, what might be your vision moving forward into next year. So just the first question that I have is, do you have a referral or an intake process? And just sort of asking that because I know that, you know, you might be stretched thin, who knows, but knowing that there's so many needs and communities out there. So just wondering if you do have a referral intake process. And then also related to that, how long do you get to work with students? So in a case management model that I've done before, you know, we could only serve clients up to 1 year, and then we, you know, we had to keep serving other students. So just curious if that is a barrier or challenge that y'all face. And then my third question was around Native American community and students. We know that that is also a really highly underserved student population. So yeah, if either or one of you can answer.
Yeah, I think in terms of, you know, how the kids are getting to us, we are heavily involved in the day-to-day operations at the building level, whether that's a care team, just reaching, you know, communicating with counselors and teachers, those study hall teachers, and a lot of those kids, you know, we've just built relationships over time, you know, maybe through our clubs.
Yeah, I think that I would build on. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
I was just going to say that that's the fluidity of our positions, is that, you know, we're not, you know, we don't, you know, we're not mandated to work with a kid for a certain amount of time, a specific kid. It's pretty much all kids, and whatever the barriers are, it's our job to figure out what the need is and how do we remove those barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I feel like the way that students come to us typically is through our care teams at our schools, but we also build relationships with teachers, again, through the restorative justice planning and rollout. We have a diverse group of teachers coming together to do this work together. And during that time, we have relationships. So they might come to us in the hall and say, hey, I'm experiencing this. And we don't necessarily always say, okay, cool, we got that, right? Like I said, we can't do everything for everybody, but what we can do is we can connect them with a resource that's either already in the building or a resource that might just be in their community. And so in terms of that referral intake process, in order for us to maintain that maximum flexibility, I think that we really work and rely on our school communities and being embedded in them, like Robert said, in order to serve the most students possible. And as far as how long, again, I agree. I think that it varies. I think that in a term like when I told Samantha's story, right? Like that was a case where it was obvious that there was a connection necessary for a long period of time. I'll tell you, frankly, I worked at Alder Creek Middle School for 4 years before coming into this job. And in the last 2 years, I've seen 2 cohorts of seniors that I've known since 6th grade walk across the stage. And there's nothing more beautiful than calling an 11th grade family and saying, hey, you remember me? I'm the bald guy with the beard from the hallway. And immediately having a relationship to be able to have what might be a difficult conversation. And that doesn't mean that I worked in depth with that student since they were in 6th grade, but just like Robert was saying, we're visible, we're there, they know they can reach out to us, they know they're connected with teachers, but we're not a part of the school system in the traditional sense. And that gives us flexibility to be able to serve students in creative ways for as long as it takes.
Yeah.
I agree too, Director, that a huge gap in our current service models is our Native populations. And I believe that is going to be something that we take seriously with our work moving forward. I know that I was on the RAU collaborative meeting with Director Perez, where we talked about some regional resources for our Native populations that I'm excited to explore, primarily Ant Farm, where I have personal experience through my college studies. However, I want to own, I think we're underserving that group of students, and it's something that we're going to need to work on.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Director Chair. Chair Ford. That was like a lot of titles.
Okay. I'm used to it. And as soon as I turn you guys on, I'm mom, and they can care about all of it. Okay. Director Strado.
Thank you. I'm not going to take much time because time is also important, but very much appreciate all the work that everybody does. And you change lives, you improve outcomes. The work you do is so very important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford. I just wanted to comment that even though you have the same goals and the world has totally changed, you've continued with great work. I mean, and your passion and your heart just came through during your presentation. So I so appreciate that I'm so glad you feel honored to do this work. We need you and we're honored to have you. So thank you so much for this very, very important work. I also was struck by your creativity. And you mentioned that it came across. Your building's processes at work. It's real evident of that when you go from 2 people in your affinity group to the picture with many. I did want to ask about the Asian American. Do you have an affinity group for that?
Yes, there's an Asian affinity group as well, and they will be a part of the leadership meeting that we will hold once a month. They will be in those conversations to ensure that we have all voices at the table.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think Kathy asked a couple other questions I had, but it's really important work. And again, we're so glad and lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, board. I just have a few comments and 2 questions. First and foremost, your work is hard, and I know it's hard, but it's hard because it matters, right? And so it's important that you guys stay in it, keep your foot on the gas, don't let go, because you see the outcomes. You guys have already seen that, and that's just so important. So you are definitely appreciated, and we all talked about, everyone talked about the word relationship. Groups that are oppressed, relationships are their wealth, and so the fact that you recognize that is just vital to showing us just how connected to the work you really are. 2 resources and 2 questions. Virtual HBCU tour will be done by SEI. So Robert, I can connect you to that.
That would be great.
That's happening next couple of months.
Okay.
I have a personal connection to Ant Farm. If you're looking for that, Luke, let me know. And then I hope you guys are already aware of the Native American curriculum, first one mandatory. And so definitely, if you get connected, get on a board or something, a committee, and let's figure out how to make that gap close really quickly. So you talked about you being connected. And so I would like to know, what are you guys hearing the students need most at this point?
Robert, you want to lead off? I'll let you lead off.
I know that a huge piece has been just the technical support, just students and or parents and guardians not understanding how to operate Chromebooks, not understanding instruction that is being asked of teachers, not having clear direction. So they get frustrated. I mean, you all know where this goes. They get frustrated, and they either they'll go in, have their camera off and not say anything and not participate, or they just don't engage at all. So we've been thinking about what can we do as a team to help address some of that. Does that look like we find a parking lot somewhere and we are alongside, of course, social distance protocol in place for sure, but just really trying to think outside of the box on how can we remove that barrier?
Yeah, I think that the barrier and then grace and understanding, and to have somebody come up alongside you and say, look, I know this feels huge right now. You got 4 classes that are credit bearing coming down on you in a quarter that seems shorter than it's ever been. But look, I'm going to connect you to this teacher. We're going to talk through a simple plan, and we're going to look for engagement first. And we're going to give you grace and space. If you can communicate with us on the regular, we're here for you. Mm-hmm. So, I think that the grace and the understanding, and then also the structure. I mean, I think, so many of our kids miss walking through the halls, and they would report missing their friends, and they would report missing that free lunch period or whatever it is. And they do miss that. But I think too, they miss having that structure, that predictability, the adults in our buildings that were there to smile, to challenge them, to hold them to a high standard, and then support them along the way. And so what I found is I think our students need engagement points, as many as possible, not just with our team, but with their teachers, with their administrators, whatever adult it was they were connected with. They need access points and engagement points. And then they need to know that we're here for them first, and that credit stuff comes second, right? We just had half of our community was on fire. I mean, come on, that grace, that human element of what we need for these students and families right now should be at the forefront. And again, I think that it's the key to bringing back that structure so that all of our students can achieve at the highest level possible.
Well, you answered my second question with those great answers. So I thank you guys, truly great presentation, and, keep it going, and we'll all get through this one moment at a time.
That's right.
Cool.
Appreciative of you all. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you again for the opportunity.
And Robert, you're showing double. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but
no, you probably are. It's me. That's just indicative of how my week has been.
Oh, got it.
That's right.
It's the amount of work he does. He does.
That's how he gets it done.
Yeah, exactly.
They've cloned him.
He cloned himself. That's awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Go ahead.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Down.
Bye, guys.
So we are at 6:20. We are officially starting our actual open session at 6:30. So you've got about a 10-minute break. We are staying here, correct, Sandra?
Yes, you're staying here. Should I stop the stream and then restart it?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.